Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward, and this is Face to Face. Our guest this week is Jennifer Wood. Jennifer is a residential school survivor from Shingaming First Nation in southern Ontario. She attended the Portage Prairie residential school and met her husband there. Jennifer has spent decades working for her fellow survivors with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs and the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. Jennifer, great to have you with us on the show this week.
Thank you very much for asking me.
We're shooting this episode a little ahead of September 30th, as you're going to be pretty busy that day. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're going to be spending the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation?
Well, I had the great honor and privilege of being asked to come and be a keynote in Thompson, Manitoba. There is a residential school survivors gathering taking place, so I'm very happy to be in the North. I mean, I lived in the North, and a lot of my residential school survivor former friends were from the North, so I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than Thompson on that day.
Nice. Well, what do you plan on telling the crowd that day?
Well, I'm basically, for my presentation, I basically tell my story. I like to reach as many as I can by telling my truth, by sharing my experience, and by honoring and acknowledging the contributions that we have made to this country despite of the legacy of the residential school era.
What does the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation mean for you?
It means it reminds us that we are resilient, that we haven't been broken, that we are resilient, that we've made it this far, and that all of Canada, the greater, larger public, gets to participate, gets to see the events across Canada, gets to learn about what reconciliation means, the National Day of Reconciliation, the Orange Shirt Day. It means a lot to me, and I'm glad that I'm taking part in it, and I'm glad that our future generations will be able to look back at it and say what an accomplishment of recognizing this day and honoring our residential school survivors.
You kind of touched on some of it there, but what do you hope that the day means for Canadians in general?
I hope that it means that they'll be empathetic, that they'll have a lot more knowledge, that they'll be appreciative about the legacy of the residential schools, that they'll want to participate in our walks, in our talks, in our events moving forward. I think Canada is looking through a new lens. I think they appreciate Indigenous people far more than ever because of the likes of, the different ministers that are getting into power, ministerial positions, that schools are participating at a larger scale, that non-Native people are really coming forward and walking side by side with us and supporting us. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I've had the chance to be in Ottawa for the first time last year, which was really something. But, here in Winnipeg alone, I think there was like 10,000 people came out for that walk. And there are walks and ceremonies all over the country. What is that saying to you?
It says to me that people are really appreciating the fact that this day has been chosen to honor and recognize survivor. It means that they're bringing along their children, they're bringing along all other nationalities. The marches are getting bigger and stronger. It really signifies that education is helping, that people are starting to look through a different lens, that they're starting to be taught different things in the schools, that corporations and private sectors and legislatures, that they're implementing probably some of the 94 calls to action, I'm not sure, but I believe that it's reaching a greater, larger scale of individuals across Canada. The marches are big, and like I said, it's only going to get bigger.
You mentioned the schools and education, and there's a lot that's going on in the schools, and it's not just a day, it's a week or more leading up and after. How important is that part, bringing it to the youth and young ones in school?
It's very important because the youth are our future. And I see in schools right now that they're teaching little kids in nursery and kindergarten. They're getting them to write stories about residential school survivors. I don't know if you've heard of Imagine Canada, but that's an initiative out of the NCTR when I was there. But we had so many stories coming to the office straight across Canada. What does reconciliation mean to you? And I read most of them, and I was really impressed at how much they knew about residential school survivors. So it's really remarkable that that's happening now today. I can go back 10 years, you wouldn't have heard that, or you wouldn't have seen that. So we're really making a lot of strides and a lot of progress with reaching a demographic that needs to be reached. And they're going to be the future. So to me, I think that it's going to be more equality, more awareness, and more support and standing with us, not behind us.
Nice. As we mentioned in the intro, you're originally from a nation in southern Ontario, but you attended the Portage La Prairie Residential School just about 45 minutes west of us from here. How did you end up at that school?
Well, my father and my stepmother, we moved from my community in southern Ontario straight into Oxford House, Bunnabonaby, in 1971. And I got sent down to residential school in Portage La Prairie because of the standard of education. It just wasn't there. And I actually didn't know where I was going when they said, I'm going to Portage La Prairie. It never registered with me. So I went down and I drove up to the school and I had my suitcase, and I don't know why, but I didn't really comprehend what I was doing or where I was going until my father said, I'll see you at Christmas. And I go, where are you going? But anyway, I was there, 1973. I was 13, and it was a whole experience for me. I mean, when they say you face culture shock, it's a real thing. I faced culture shock. I was lonely. I was alone. And at that point in time, when I was left there, I made a decision that I better take on an attitude of positiveness, because I could have easily went into a world where it wouldn't have been a good place for me. Mm-hmm. So I've maintained that to this day. I still maintain having a positive attitude. And my residential school experience, I believe, was something that formed and shaped the person I am today.
Right. Last month there was a ceremony to commemorate the significance of that site, which is also home to the National Indigenous Residential School Museum of Canada. It's a school I used to live on the edge of Dakota Teepee and Portage, so I would drive by that school on my way to school and home every single day. What's the significance for you of that facility? Well,
it's very significant. One being that I attended there. 2, that now it's owned by our First Nations. 3, that now it's considered a National Historical Site. And I heard that they're going to be having a Portage La Prairie reunion there. So to me, it's marking significance. It's, a lot of people are saying tear down the schools. No, keep it there. You want to be mindful. You want it there. You want that history there so that we could say, we went there and we're never going to go into those types of places again in our life moving forward. So it's very significant to me that, that's a place where I grew up. That's a place that molded and shaped me. And that's a place where I had many tears and many fears. But you know what? I made it work for me, and I'm glad that I did, because a good thing came out of it, because that's where I met my husband. Now we have 11 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. I always say I have my own hockey team.
Right. I was going to mention that for those who don't know, you did meet your husband there, and hope we're going to get more of that story. Jennifer, we just have to step aside for a quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation here on Face to Face. Stick around. Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is residential school survivor and advocate Jennifer Wood. And Jennifer, before the break, we were talking about the Portage La Prairie Residential School where you attended, but also where you met your husband, Darcy. Can you give us a little background on that story, I guess?
Well, I was 13, he was 16, and we were all friends. There was a group of 5 that we hung around with. And we hung around for 5 years. I mean, we went everywhere together and we supported one another. So when the school closed down in 1975, there was about 10 or 15 of us that decided to stay in Portage La Prairie, and we went into boarding home. And he was one of them as well. So we met in Winnipeg after, shortly after, and started dating, and then we always laugh at each other because we always tease one another because, I said, you asked me to dance. He goes, no, you asked me. I said, nope. So we still have a good laughter about that today. And when we run into our friends from residential school of other couples that ended up together there, we all have a nice joke about it because we were so young and naive, and then we meet each other in our 60s and we're still together. And so it's a wonderful feeling, actually.
Yeah, that's a great story. You've also spent decades advocating for helping out your fellow survivors, either with the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs or when you were with the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Can you talk a bit about, what drew you into that advocacy?
Well, I've always been passionate about helping people. I really do not like when I see someone treated unfairly. And I do not like seeing people making fun of homelessness or poverty. I've always spoken up ever since I was a kid. I guess I was a little fighter. So I guess that never really left me. So growing into my career, being in politics, and worked for Elijah Harper, the late Elijah Harper, for 10 years, it took me into a world of seeing things that are possible, that I know how to do things and how to go around things and follow the processes and the guidelines and to speak up, because it took me really a long time to find my voice. I couldn't even eat in the cafeteria by myself. I'd run out, And so I really always pushed forward and pressed on because I wanted to make things better in whatever capacity. So I had the opportunity when the settlement agreement came out in 2006, I believe. I was approached by my friend, she was former AFN CEO, Catherine Whitecloud, and she phoned me and said, how would you like to be the coordinator for the settlement agreement? And I go, I don't know nothing about it. And then she goes, well, think about it. I go, okay. So I just dove in and I just embraced the settlement agreement for community survivors that would be eligible for compensation and common experience payments and rolling out the funds. So I just dove in and I just embraced it and did a lot of presentations to explain it to our survivors, because I would feel better if a survivor was coming to talk to survivors that have experience, and I took the time to learn that agreement, and I wanted to go make presentations. So that's what really drives me is when you've come to a place and you've gone through a lot of struggles, and that you should give back to the community and be a part of it and participate. So that's always driven me. I've been always a passionate person for speaking up and doing what's right.
You always have been a bit of a player in the background when it comes to politics too, as you mentioned there with Elijah, but what was it about politics that excited you so much and that keeps you going there?
Well, I've always believed that our people should be involved in the politics. We should be involved in places where they're making decisions on our lives. So when I was boarding in town here, when I moved from Portage La Prairie, I stayed with my aunt, and she was a strong advocate of everything. And she said, why don't you go and participate and help out Keeper? He was an MP. And I said, I don't know a thing about that. She goes, just take that pamphlet and go knock on some doors. So I did. And I got a lot of doors slammed in my face, but I liked it. I liked the challenge of organizing a campaign and being involved. And then I went on to doing that as my pastime, is managing leaders and coordinating their campaigns, and they won. So I'm like, I really like the what it takes to do to assemble a team, to trust a team, to find the funding, to run the campaign, and then when you see the individual win, it's a real amazing experience. So I just have that passion for politics, because a lot of people will say things about politicians, but when you work in the background and in the background rooms and you see how hard they work, you have a greater appreciation, and I wish a lot more people would have that type of attitude towards them.
Over all this time and that work, you've witnessed the treatment and, of course, the mistreatment of survivors over the many decades. Are there some big moments that really stick out for you?
Well, moments that in terms of gatherings, or?
Yeah, I guess, one thinks about the Pope's apology, maybe something that you attended. And,
yes,
what,
in Musquecheese.
Yeah, what a moment like that was like for yourself?
Well, I was fortunate to be there, and I had just started at the NCTR, and I got to sit in the crowd with the survivors, and I got to sit and witness the Pope's apology, and you could have heard a pin drop. I looked to my left, I saw all the bishops, and they were all crying. I looked to my right, and I saw all the member of parliaments and federal representatives, and they were crying. So it was a moment for me to witness that, and I felt I'm in a time and place in history where we have the highest of the Vatican apologizing to the survivors for the first time in their life, and I'm sitting here being witnessed. That stood out for me. It really, really did, because I felt that people felt validated, they felt valued, and they felt that the time had come, and I was witness to seeing elders have a sigh of relief. I'm glad I was there. A lot of people, have different opinions, but this is my opinion of me being there, and I was happy I was there, and I was happy to see that apology.
Yeah. The late Pope Francis also described what happened to Indigenous peoples forced to attend residential schools as a genocide. Did you ever think that you would hear those words from a Pope in your lifetime?
No, and I was elated when I did hear it, because we were hoping that he would say it. We were holding our breath, hoping it would come out, because it's such a strong word and such a strong stance to take, and he finally said it on the airplane on his way out. And at that time I was interviewed as well, and I just shared that it's the time has come to call it what it is. We're at a time in history and in our life that you can't sweep things under the rug anymore. We're not going to tolerate it. We're so done with that. We're moving forward. We have the apologies. We have the churches probably looking at us in different lens, as I said. We have governments looking at us in different lens, because when you hear the Vatican, the highest of the Vatican, apologizing and using genocide, then that means that what happened to our people actually did happen, and that's the truth.
Good part to just step aside, Jennifer, for one last quick break here, but much more to talk with you about. Stick around. Welcome back to Face to Face. Our guest this week is residential school survivor and advocate Jennifer Wood. And Jennifer, in recent years, there's been a real rise in residential school denialism, it seems, post-Kamloops, and it certainly picks up around this time. There's a well-known denier that's supposed to be coming here this month to speak outside of the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. What do you think motivates those people, those attitudes?
Well, I mean, denialism, you're always going to have them. No one is ever going to agree that did happen, because if they do agree that did happen to our people, and they were that people, they're going to be responsible, and they would have to feel responsible and be responsible. So we've always faced that our entire life of being a survivor, of never being believed. That's common amongst survivors, and we are so used to it. Well, now we're not taking that attitude anymore. We're going to challenge them back and say, here's the facts, this did happen to us. But denialism, I mean, you look over the course of history, it's always been there. So this individual, sadly, that feels that she has to come to the National Center and protest and advocate that, what is happening out in Canada or across Canada or Kamloops never happened. That is just so ludicrous, and we just look at ourselves and go, well, we're used to this. I mean, here they come again. So I feel sad that she's taking that stance and using that kind of energy to deny such a fact of life that actually is the truth. Why doesn't she turn that energy around of what she's doing and come and learn and sit with us and talk to survivors and go to First Nations and learn how to say hello in our language and talk to some survivors that endured abuses? Why doesn't she put her energy into that? She'd be a much better person for it.
Wise words there. We're also approaching this year is going to be the 10th anniversary of the release of the TRC. How do you reflect back on that time?
Wow, well, a lot has happened in 10 years. I mean, when I look at all the leaders that took the time and advocated for where we are today, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, commissioners that traveled across Canada, that took the time to listen to 7,000 statements. When I look at how many, when I look at the MMIW inquiry, when I look at the settlement agreement, when I look at the 60 scoop, when I look at all these things that are unfolding now, is a result of someone that took the time and traveled and educated Canada, educated Canadians. That really makes me feel good, because 10 years, I mean, what's going to happen 10 years from now? I mean, look at the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. They're at their point of almost achieving to have the new building. And when that is done, it's going to be the hub of Canada. We're going to set a precedent to other countries that could have such a place as the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation, and be a forever educational tool for all Canadians to walk through and continue to grow and to learn and appreciate survivors' history in our own country.
I was going to ask you, what are your hopes for the next 10 years? I guess maybe aside from realizing that facility here.
My next 10 years, what I would like to see is I would like to continue to see that legislatures are having mandatory cultural competency in their legislatures, in all departments, in all private sector, in all schools, in all areas where we need education. Take a course, learn about the history of the residential school, make it mandatory. I would like to see everyone have a huge signage, wherever, however, in every airport. When I land in Toronto, I want to see a huge signage that recognizes the residential school survivors. I want to see it in Winnipeg, in every province. I want to see children standing up and advocating for us and walking with us. I want to see everyone know what Orange Shirt Day means. There's so many things that can happen and are happening. And I think that we're at a time and place where people will begin to recognize and to look at funding and helping out the homelessness, for looking at how can I help those people. Because when you look at the homelessness, 9 out of 10 times, if you went to walk and talk to one of the homeless people, they were residential school victims. They were intergenerationally impacted. So my next 10 years, I cannot wait, and I hope I'm still around advocating. I don't know, I'll be 80 years old just fighting my fight.
Nice. Well, congrats, I guess, on your upcoming 70th, or if you just celebrated that. Jennifer, thanks so much for being with us here on the show this week. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate being here. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for Face to Face this week. You can catch up on any episodes you may have missed by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca, or visiting our APTN News YouTube page. All our episodes of Face to Face are also available as podcasts. You can find those wherever you choose to download your audio from. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dennis Ward. We will see you back here next week.